The idea in this video is pretty simple. It's just that when you're placing your final piece to start your chain, just it's okay to take a moment to figure out what the best way to place that piece is. And usually it's not going to matter very much if you take some time to figure that out. But if you put it too fast, it can cause problems. Now, if you're playing at like the pro level, then it starts to matter because they can build another chain while your chain is going, and they can build it up so fast that that can actually matter more. But besides that, most of the time it won't matter. So, for an example of things you want to think about, the first one is how your chain might cut. You want to make sure that when you place that last piece, it doesn't somehow cut your chain. So what can happen a lot of times is here you just need a yellow. So maybe your opponent sends like a 4 chain or a 5 chain, and you know you're going to win if you can just get the yellow to start your main chain. So you're like putting down pieces, but you're not getting a yellow, and you're like putting them down as fast as you can, and you're still not getting a yellow. And then at the very end, you get a yellow and a green, and then you're still in the like rush mindset, so you just slam it down really fast, and then you lose because it cuts. So it's once you get the piece you need, like you just need a yellow, you can take a little bit of time to figure out, okay, all I have to do is make sure I don't put it like this, because it's gonna cut, and it'd be better to put it like this, or any other way that doesn't cut, and then you probably win, according to the situation. So here's another example of that. So say you're like rushing out pieces, and then you get a yellow red. So where do you put it? Well, you have to make sure you don't put it like this, and you don't put it like this, because both of those are going to cut. So as long as you put the red in farther over, you're safe. So again, a lot of times when you're setting off your main chain, you're in a hurry, but you don't have to hurry on the very last piece. You can slow down for a moment just to make sure you don't like lose a match because of a silly mistake like this. And it can actually happen pretty often, so it's something to be aware of at least. And then as you get better, you start to learn what types of things to watch out for, and you can see them faster, so you can also place your last piece faster too without making mistakes. So here's a bit more tricky one. Let's say you have a green blue. Now, where do you want to place this when you're starting your match? So it might look like you don't want to place the blue over here because it looks like it has a chance to break. So you might just put it like this. But that's the wrong choice because then your whole tell breaks. So any other choice would be fine, like this or this. Both of them are going to be fine, and your chain will work. So again, you want to make sure you get that last piece placement correct so you don't throw away a match that you're going to win. Here's another good one. So this is a Yayori chain, and um, probably, I think if you're just playing normally, it's something that's really easy to miss because so many of the places you put it are actually incorrect. So let's say you put it like this. Well, turns out that's 45 garbage, and that's not the best answer. Or you might just put it straight down. Maybe not that, but that's 61 garbage, and it's not the best. the way you should actually put it is like this, and it's 100 garbage, and that's quite a big difference, and it's also an all clear in this example. But if you're not familiar with the chain, it might look like putting the blues like this make it more likely to cut somehow, because a lot of tells go like this, and then um, if the tell was like that, it would cut, and it wouldn't be as good. But the trick is in this chain, that's how you have to put it to make sure um, it doesn't break the blues over here. So as you're playing around with whatever chain type you like the most, something you want to pay attention to is different ways that that chain can break. So like Yayoi, the common way to break is having the color at the bottom over here, having that color somewhere where it falls and breaks early. And most of the chain still connects, but you lose a lot of power at the end. Now for one more, this one's pretty tricky to see, but once you really get used to using GTR, it becomes something that you can start to see more often. So where would you put this red blue? You have three choices. There's like this, or like this, or like this. So which one would you pick? To me, it kind of looks like if you put it like this and you didn't know, this looks like it might break because it's going to connect with these blues. And then this kind of looks like it might break because it's going to connect with these blues. So instinctively, you might put it like this, but this one's actually the wrong answer. So either of the other ones is okay. So again, there's no real easy way to know what's going to cause your chain to break and what isn't. Something that, like, as you use a form more often and you start to see it happen, like, this is something you actually see happen sometimes, and then you can try to remember it when you see it so that you can try to avoid it in the future. And the trick is, if it's two in this shape, if it's two off of the, or if there's an extra Puyo, and then you have that color, it'll connect like this. So if it's right on top of this, so you have this green connecting to the GTR, if it's right on top of that, then it's safe. But if it's one more space, there's one more space in between, then it's actually going to connect and it'll break if you have an extra somewhere. So in this scenario with it, with the extra space in there, then nothing's going to work, no matter how you put it. Because this breaks, and this one breaks, and if you tilt it to the left, it still breaks. So it's not necessarily just the last piece. Like, as you get better, you would want to pay attention to the other pieces you're placing. Like if you get a yellow and a blue, it actually matters quite a bit that you put it this way instead of upside down the other way, so that the blue is right on top of the green and it's safe. But these things are harder to notice, especially when you're like trying to rush out your chain. But even when you're rushing on the very last piece, it's okay to take your time. So that's why I would put the emphasis on um, taking a moment on the very last piece to get it correct. So now, for the other type of thing to watch out for on the last pieces, let's say you get a double red here and you're doing your stairs. So you want to set it off, so you just put it like this, And that looks fine. And you get 90 garbage. But if there's any way that you can add more power to the later the later parts of your chain, that tends to make a bigger difference. And here, the best way to place is actually like this. And then you get 100 garbage instead of 90. So it's not huge like cutting your chain, but it can be a it can be a meaningful difference, especially in situations where like if your opponent also has a 5 chain, then uh, when it's very close, having that extra 10 garbage can be the difference between like winning and losing the match. So it's not the most important thing, but it is something you should be aware of, and you should try to take a moment with your final piece to make sure you're getting the most power with it. So for a similar example, but this one's more impactful. Let's say you got a red yellow to start your chain and you need to start it now, so you just place it down and you get a 3 chain for 14 garbage, but you should have laid it sideways like this because then it would have been a 4 chain and 32 garbage. And that fourth chain by itself is 18 garbage, so it's more than the first, second, and third chains combined. So when you're adding like +1 to the chain count, then it becomes a bigger deal. So for some more examples of that, let's say you get a red and a green, and you're starting your match. It might look like you just want to place it here. So the least efficient option is like this, because the green doesn't connect to anything, and that's 299. Then there's this. It's 302, so that's +3. That's not very impactful, but sometimes it could matter. That's pretty rare though. So the best answer is like this, because you're adding the green to the very last match in the chain, so it increases the power the most. And you get up to 323, so that's 21 more than the 302 in the second case. And if you both have 8 chains, sometimes that's the difference maker, and that can win the round for you. And here's another example. As your chains get longer, it starts to add even more to the power. If you can add extra Puyo into the last chains of the whole chain. So let's say you get a red, green, and there's 3 ways to place it. Like this, this, or this. So if you're not thinking much about it, you'd probably place it like this. And you get 546. But the best way is like this. And you get 579, so it's +33 garbage. And then this example also had another variation where if you had a red blue, then both of these options are the same and they're not the best answer because the blue doesn't disappear. It's 299, and the best answer is this. It's 329, so again, that's pretty meaningful, especially if you both have similar size chains. So you want to take a little bit of time to try to figure out what that best placement is, but you also don't want to wait around forever. So here's a fancy example, but let's say you have a red blue and you're like, all right, you got it, so just start the chain. And this is a really good chain, but there's 3 blues left over, and it's 1, 2, 3, 4 garbage. But if you had tilted it to the side, it becomes a 15 chain all clear and 1451. So again, it gets to be a big difference, especially if it adds more to your chain count, or if your chain is a bigger chain. And one thing I was going to mention with the type 1 examples are sometimes you can find yourself in a trap where, again, let's say you're rushing out pieces really fast, and then you get a yellow finally at the very end, and you're like, alright, I got this. And then you press down a little bit, and now your piece is trapped because the only correct way to place it is like this. And if you don't see that and you let the piece drop a little bit, well, now you're already in trouble, and there's nothing you can do because however you place it, it's going to break. And it's just like, or you do this and it breaks. So this one, you kind of like, even if you take a moment, you might let the piece fall down a little bit and then you can't spin it up. So this one you would really want to see in advance, and you would want to be thinking, if I get a yellow and a blue, then I have to lean the blue over here so it doesn't break the chain. And then, of course, it's safer to not build like that at all, but sometimes you can't help it. So that's all I have for this video, and thanks for watching.